standing here at the altar rails here at the entrance to the sanctuary. Unfortunately, in the last 40 to 50 years, in many churches, the altar rails did not survive the reordering of the various churches, but thanks be to God, here in the cathedral we still have them. These altar rails were built, I suppose you could call it, by the family of Pádraig Pearse, the great national hero. And all along these altar rails for the entire extension of the sanctuary area, there are symbols of the Passion of Christ. Many of the altar rails in churches throughout the world were taken out because there was maybe sometimes not clear idea of what the altar rails were about. These were not barriers between this is holy and this is not holy. The clergy are so holy and the laity, well, they're not so holy. That was never the idea. This is not a barrier. This was always seen as a doorway into heaven. Because the church was designed, the great churches in the Middle Ages and even recently, they were always designed to have this idea that they are a miniature representation of the cosmos. And so you have heaven and earth. And in the past, these altar rails would have been used, people would have come to receive the Lord of heaven while kneeling here in this in-between place, the place between God who comes from heaven and we who come from earth. We meet in this in-between place. Ordinarily, these days we have the gates of the altar rails all open most of the time. But in the past they would have been closed and only open at Mass time. Only open at Mass time because at Mass heaven opens. In a sense, at Mass, we dip our toe into eternity. The altar rails were never meant to communicate a separation between the sacred and the profane, the holy and the not so holy. They were always there to communicate that there is a distinction between heaven and earth, but in Christ Jesus, and because of what He has done for us on the cross, the two are united. And in this place, for so many decades, the symbolic idea is God comes from His heaven and gives Himself to His people here on earth. And in the Mass, that's what happens. Heaven and earth mingle in a way that is beyond our understanding, but in a way that facilitates that we come into a beautiful union with our God in Holy Communion.